What's good, YouTube? It's me, boys. Get back in the next video. Unchained, they got hit. Probably the arguably worst on the entire ban list. Like, this hit Shavara to 1 really hurt the deck. And, you know, after seeing some combos being tested on YouTube and here and there what the discussion has been online, I actually realized there's still a way to play this deck, but it does hurt you a lot more. You probably do have to play 2 of the blue dog SHYAMA now if you want to be optimal, which really hurts because that card is a massive brick, as you guys know if you've already played this deck. So yeah, I wanted to show you guys some of the combos you can still kind of run, and then maybe you guys can kind of build on it. Huge shout out to Shady TCG as well as DB Grinder. I was kind of testing out their streams and seeing like what they were doing with their combos, and there were a lot of cool stuff that I gained from there, just a lot of gold knowledge. So starting off first with just the tour guide, I'll show you guys what I mean when I say that you definitely probably need the 2 SHYAMA. So we're still going to go off in the standard combo. This is just playing the 1 blue dog, the 1 SHYAMA. We're going to go into the Unchained Lord of Yama. Same kind of play here. Chain links, and then you're going to send the 1 copy of Shavara, which is so sad. But we're going to set a copy of a trap, get the Aruha now, because we're forced to basically bank on Aruha being the hand effect now that Shavara is at 1. Gonna pop the escapes effects, gonna summon out the copy of SHYAMA. Then from here, we're gonna pop the Aruha. Same kind of standard combo as you guys already know, the bread and butter of this deck. And then from here, we're gonna link up into Rage. Just use the effect of SHYAMA to pop the Rage to reset the escape. And then activate the effect of the Rage to actually add back the Shavara, which is really important. So here's where the play kind of deviates, depending on if you decide to play 1 SHYAMA or 2 SHYAMAs. This is in the case where you only play 1 because you don't want to play bricks. Let's say you use the in-hand effect of Shavara. Yeah, it's really sad that we do have to get this into our hand by all means possible, so it does mean burning the Rage there. And then using the effect, we're actually going to rely on Unchained Soul of Disaster. This is another brick that you actually do have to play in this deck now, because now we're hedging by summoning stuff from the graveyard, which Unchained Soul of Disaster does. Previously, we could summon multiple Shavaras from deck, but now that it's at 1, we really need the effect of Disaster to start bringing back our resources from the grave and treating that as if it was in our deck. So going to bring back that SHYAMA, popping it, and then we can actually use the effect of Disaster to bring back the Unchained Soul of Rage, and then go into your DDD, which looks fine and dandy. This is still a similar end board. The caveat is you're not ending with the Shavara in your hand, which is previously extremely important for you to play around cards like Triple Tactics Talent, popping your own Caesar, triggering your effect of Yama in the graveyard, and then popping your own cards to potentially summon out, let's say, like an Abomination from your deck, so you can just interrupt and continue to play. Now, not having the Shavara means that your board is very susceptible to a lot of board wipes, which I'm just not a huge fan of. Let's say like they just bait your monster effects out and they go Tactics Talent. Like, you really have zero recourse against a Tactics Talent trying to steal, right? So that's why you should probably be forced to play 2 SHYAMA, and I'm going to show you guys the 2 SHYAMA combo now so you kind of get a gist of what I mean when I say it's safer. Alright guys, so back to this combo line where we ended up previously with the Shavara being added back off our hand with the Soul of Rage being popped by the Sarama. We are actually, instead of using the Shavara in the hand, we're going to burn the effective SHYAMA in the graveyard first. Popping the Sarama, effective Sarama here is going to bring out a second copy of Blue Dog. Unfortunate. But this is required in order to go into the wave High King Caesar with the Shavara in hand, and of course still keeping our resources, our Yama in the graveyard. So this is what I mean by, you know, having the 2 blue dogs. It really is suboptimal, but it just shows like whether the deck is hurt to board breakers or if you want to play more consistency and kind of hedge against the board breakers by playing more hand traps or something to grind better. It's just a matter of whether or not you want the Shavara in your hand. Now, here's one thing that I actually discovered I thought was kind of cool, and we're actually going to leverage Ready Fusion as a potential extender in this deck. And you see that we've just rebound back to the same step that we previously did, where the Shavara is added back to your hand after the Unchained Soul of Rage, and then we're going to pop the Sarama with the SHYAMA. Same thing here, but now instead of, so we can actually bring out the free Rakea off of Sarama, but now instead of actually using a second blue dog, what you can do is just use the Ready Fusion here and then go into this bad boy, the Soul Hunter. This is a random level 6 fusion vanilla that was out of some random Astro Pack, and I think it's actually pretty expensive, $15-20. But this guy is actually level 6 Fiend, meaning you can actually go into DDD High Wave King Caesar, or just use him as a generic Fiend extender when you open Ready Fusion plus another Fiend to try and go off in your link plays into something like Yama. The caveat is that when you open this with any Fiend name and you burn your normal summon, you do have to have another copy of a Trap or Abomination's Prison to set, because you're going to need something to pop off of the Aruha that you had off Yama, right? So it's not like an instant ready fusion slash extender, but it's still there that on the off case you do require a second level 6 body, you can actually do it. Obviously, you would have to open Tour Guide plus Ready Fusion for this combo, so it's technically a 2-card combo, but I wanted to show you guys that Ready Fusion is actually a cool little trick that you could use in this deck and incorporate it, because it gives you a free level 6 Fiend extender who can be used as either a Fiend body or a Fiend and a level 6 body to go into your Hive Wave King Caesar while keeping the Shavara in your hand. And then the last combo I want to show you guys, obviously just the standard Aruha with the Abominable Unchained Chamber, which is going to be a lot more common now, the 2-card combo. So just standard combo lines, summoning out the Shavara, the 1 copy, using this to go directly into your Yama here. Yama's effect's going to trigger, same with the Red Dog, going to set the Escape, normal summon the Sarama, same kind of standard combo, set the other trap, pop the trap that you set, summon out the copy of SHYAMA, and then from here, you do have to, unfortunately, you do have to play 2 SHYAMA for this, so we're going to bring out the Rakea, going to pop the dog here, or we're going to link off into the dog first and then pop it here with Rakea. The blue dog's effect to add back the 1 copy of Shavara, and then the SHYAMA going to pop the Rakea to bring out a second copy of the SHYAMA to go into the High King Caesar, and then have the Shavara in your hand still for protection. So, I mean, we could obviously do it slightly different here. If you do want to burn the Yama, then there's just the option of bringing back something like a Shavara, but then again, you would not be able to have the Shavara in your hand. But that makes it so you don't play 2 copies of Blue Dog either. So these are just kind of things you have to juggle now, I think, playing with this deck. Do you really want to play consistency and then make your end board a lot weaker, or do you want to play a stronger end board and make your deck a lot worse over the course of 12 rounds because your consistency drops? Every time you draw like SHYAMA or the Unchained Soul of Disaster, it basically means that you're starting with 1 less card in your hand, because these cards really barely do anything in your hand. You really can't do anything with them, right? So I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think about the deck so far. So this is what the modern Unchained deck might look like after the ban list. You guys have to forgive me because I threw this together in all of 5 seconds. But to give you guys a thought, a starting point on where you can actually build this deck and adapt it, you can see that obviously the 1 Shavara means that we do have to play upwards of 2 SHYAMA in order to end on an optimal end board where you actually do get that Shavara back in hand for added defense and utility, as we demonstrate in the combos. But that means that you have to play 2 SHYAMAs plus a Disaster, which are literally bricks, on top of also the Abominable, which is also a brick. So potentially 3 or 4 bricks in the deck just does not feel good. I mean, you have a very sizable chance of opening at least 1 of these in your opening hand in any given duel, and that probably means you're already down bad, because you're already down a card effectively. These guys just cannot be used very effectively. At least Abominable, you can kind of use it, but these guys, like, yeah, it's not great. So this is more of a starting point. I want to get the community's thoughts on this as a whole. Do you guys think that there's any way to optimize this deck so we can still play it? Because the core deck still stands quite, like, it's quite good. You know, you're still going through your Yama plays. You have a bunch of hand traps to back it up. It's very resilient, and you have a lot of layered protection. But now it's a lot weaker because you're not ending on Shavara in your hand all the time. And on top of all of that, your boards are going to be a lot weaker and more susceptible to Nibiru, because you don't have a lot of ways to play around Nib now if you're trying to go for your optimal end board, right? The Shavara just being at 3 made it so easy. Now at 1, it just makes it very, very hard. And you have to really play like a god in order to anticipate all the lines, playing around everything, and making sure you have just enough resources to squeak out a win, I think, with this deck as it stands now. Now, Ready Fusion, again, was that little tech that we demonstrated in the previous combo where you can go into the Soul Hunter as an added layer of utility in terms of being an extender or a level 6 Fiend monster, so you can actually just overlay into the DDD Wave High King Caesar. It makes it a lot more forgiving when you don't open, or you have to burn the Shavara right away, and then you kind of want to return it back to your hand and not have to use it in investment to make the High Wave King Caesar, right? So, in fact, you know, Requiem with the Dark Gate is not something else that you guys can continue to play, because I think that's actually just better as the Fiend extender, obviously, being able to go into the DDD and then the Zeus. You have so many angles, whereas this is just like a fusion monster that dies at the end of the turn. So the only benefit of Ready Fusion is the fact that it's a level 6, so you can actually make the Wave High King Caesar, which is still an insane card, right? Especially against decks like Labyrinth, where you're actually being able to negate their big welcome Labyrinths and interact with their plays. Another thing that you can actually work on in this deck is actually just leaning towards a heavier Nightmare Griffin line, maybe just like promoting the Griffin lock over something like Wave High King Caesar, because because that would obviously make it a lot more flexible, where you don't rely on having a level 6 body. So then we could probably just cut back down SHYAMA to 1, and maybe not even play Soul of Disaster. We're just going for the old school Nightmare Griffin lines to lock them out. But unfortunately, that is weaker against a lot of the decks like Labyrinth, because you're not interacting with any of their monsters, right? They don't really care about their monsters. As long as they have their traps, they're going to be able to play. So that's the key difference between Nightmare Griffin and I think DDD Wave Hiking Caesar, is that Labyrinth is one of the best decks right now, and it will continue to get better with Maze of Memories when they do get either Rumple Teufel or the transaction rollback. So the deck's just going to be like really, really degenerate, and I think having access to Wave Hiking Caesar will help you mitigate that. It deals with a lot of things. Obviously, it deals with the Lady Labyrinths in the hand as well, being able to summon themselves out. It does like a lot of lines. Basically, every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now has to special summon in order to compete. So this card just covers all your bases, whereas Nightmare Griffin only is effective against more of the combo decks. And even still, a lot of decks are link decks now. So like if you don't have added disruption behind the Nightmare Griffin, then they're going to be able to go off in their link monsters and still get the effects off, right? Like in the case of Fire King. So I don't even know how good Nightmare Griffin is in the modern metagame, to be honest with you, but that's just another thing that you can definitely explore. This is sort of what I had in mind for the deck in general, but I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts as a whole in the community. Do you guys think this deck is still alive, or is it completely dead, or is it like sort of like a roguish deck now that is going to fade into oblivion because other decks are power creeping it? Let us know in the comments below. Other than that, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Let us know about your Unchained combos in the comments. Bye-bye.